Travelers on the Omnibus occasionally touches on mature subject matter with mature language. As such, the audience discretion is advised. We're back. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Travelers on the Omnibus, a field trip through nerd and pop culture. My name is James McCarthy.
I'm Brady Davis.
I'm Jody K.
Gentlemen, we are Sans 1.
Mm-hmm.
Where is he? What have you done with him?
We've shipped him to Atlanta.
Why are you looking at me?
Because I thought you'd have a fun joke about what happened with him. And
No, I haven't done anything to the boy.
okay, there you go.
I want to find out what happened.
That's making it sound more creepy that you might have done something. I'm just suggesting.
I need to find out what happened to Lil John's energy drink. So we sent Ethan to Atlanta.
Mm-hmm. Oh, there you go. Yes, he's on a field trip.
He's supposed to bring
himself.
us back some Mexican Coke.
Yeah, Mexican Coca-Cola.
Cane sugar.
Glad you clarified that.
Yeah, because you could get another type.
Yeah.
El Chapo would appreciate it if you paid top dollar for it.
Cocaine's a MacGuffin in the movie that escapes my brain right now.
Cocaine Bear?
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, there you go.
It. Oh, that's what ties Cocaine Bear with Renfield. That's the movie I was thinking of.
Cocaine Bear happened in Georgia.
Yeah.
That's why Ethan's in Georgia.
Oh, okay.
Where he's going to try to find the cocaine from the
Cocaine was used in Renfield in not the way you would think it would be used.
If he comes back here with like a 1980s style paper bag filled with cocaine that he got from Stone Mountain, Georgia, we don't tell anybody, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, just the people that are listening right now.
If you were here for this episode, don't tell nobody.
Yeah, don't snitch.
Yeah. Don't do it. Genius something.
We'll see about that.
I can't remember the rest of them. Like it just real quick. That's a weird serendipity for us because one of our favorite wrestlers in the world and the opening of Cocaine Bear, it's the same fucking song.
Mm-hmm.
Really cool. That's a really good opener.
That is a good Starship
that song has a very good opening.
There you go. So before we meander even further, but yes, Ethan is off in Atlanta with his girl B, about to enjoy a Taylor Swift concert.
I was about to say Taylor Swift concert.
Yeah. So glad you got there safe,
yeah,
brother.
They were one of the lucky ones to get the tickets. Apparently,
it was a lottery.
Yeah, there you go. Like the Hunger Games? What the hell?
Oh, like the lottery they used to do back in the old days of like, there can only be so many people that live in a village and then we have to stone somebody to death. One of those lotteries.
That's hardcore.
Yeah.
Who's boomering themselves now?
Yeah, it's pretty old reference.
That's not boomering. That's dark aging. Fuck. Anyway, I've been playing Metal Gear Solid 5.
Sweet.
Part of the reason is I wanted to play an open world game that wasn't The Legend of Zelda in preparation for Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. Because I knew if I played Breath of the Wild, I would just burn myself out. And it's like I don't want to do more.
Yeah, you don't want to do
stuff.
that.
Yeah.
I'm really excited for the new stuff in Tears of the Kingdom. But I think Metal Gear, MGS5, I think is Kojima's masterpiece. I think it was perfect. Like the tactical espionage of Metal Gear with the complete open worldness that you have in that game and the freedom to do a lot of stuff that you just wouldn't think about doing. I've only done the Ground Zero stuff, which was the preliminary disc.
Demo.
Yeah, the
demo disc that was like $30.
Yeah, but to be fair, and there's more in that demo disc than you see in a lot of demo
I would hope
software.
So.
It was actually it was for what it was. I think it was very well done. And I think time has shown that very well. So I've been tooling around with that, which I've been very happy about. I like being able. Right now, the stat tracking in that game is weird. Like they track your headshots and the distance, and they keep updating. Like what I had, my longest tranquilizer dart headshot is like 49 meters.
Oh wow!
Nice.
And I think about trying to do that in real life, and I don't think I could get 0.49 meters.
Right.
So it's just there. But yeah, I've been enjoying that and been able to get around with that. That's cool. That's pretty much me. Brady, let's hit you up. What you been doing, brother?
Yeah, I had done a pretty good amount of things. This past Thursday, played a game of Age of Sigmar finally.
Yes.
With one Derek Anderson.
Derek, you better be listening. If not, fuck you. If you are, thank you. There we go.
I was finally able to play the first army that I ever got in Age of Sigmar, the Ossiarch Bone Reapers, who up until now have been kind of unplayable because they ignore a lot of because they just don't. The rules in the new version of Age of Sigmar don't fit with their old rules, and that was a big headache.
Even with that update they did in the White Dwarf,
the update made it a little bit better. They weren't absolutely broken, but it's still like you were missing out on so many things. But they finally have a new battle tome, a new book with updated rules, and I think the new rules are really, really, really good. It's not a perfect book, but
very few are.
But yeah, I don't want a perfect book because that means it's probably going to get super nerfed later, and I don't want that. I want to actually be able to play as my fucking army,
and kind of play a consistent.
Yeah, but I got to play my Bone Reapers versus his.
Actually, wasn't it's our friend John's orcs.
John's orcs.
Yeah,
we didn't get to play a full game because we didn't start until almost 10 o'clock. And I had to get up early in the morning, so we played to about round 3. It was still kind of a toss-up as to who would have won that game, I think. But it didn't matter because I got to live the dream. So there's a character, a big giant, one of the big centerpiece models called Archon the Black, the Mortarch of Sacrament. And he's a really cool model, and they've made him really, really good in this new book. And he has a spell. He's a magic guy. He's a wizard, and he has a spell called Curse of Years. In lore, he basically makes something age until it turns to dust. Well, what the spell actually is you roll 10 dice, and every 6 up is a mortal wound, which is a wound that you can't make a save on. You just take it unless you have a special thing called a ward, which you can negate the wound. Every 6 up is a mortal wound on a 6-sided die. Then you set that die, everything that you rolled that's a 6, you set that aside. And then you roll those again. And now it's every 5 up is a mortal wound. Okay? Then you do the same thing again. 4 up, then 3 up, then 2 up. Now, 1s always miss. But you can, if you never roll a 1, you can technically go infinite and wipe out an entire unit. And I got to do that. We ended up with like 19 mortal wounds on like a 10-man unit, which I've never done before. Most of the time, you do like maybe 2 mortal wounds, and it's just kind of a waste, but it's just a fun thing to try and do. But I actually got to live the dream, and that's really cool. And I might would have won after that because Derek was so dejected from that. But it was really a Hail Mary thing.
Well, yeah, you took his Etch-a-Sketch and you shook it. I mean, Jesus Christ, man! Like
one die rolled a 6, okay, and then it rolled like another 6, and then it rolled a 4, and then it rolled, and finally it was just like it on one die I did 19 mortal wounds. So I did 19 rolls without rolling a 1. And it was really awesome. Yep. Anybody who's ever played this army has played with the character Archon, knows about Curse of Years, and like that's every time you cast that spell, that's what you hope to happen. And it will probably never happen again, but it was really fun. But I do enjoy the new rules for the army. They've changed a lot of things that have made them a lot better. They've made them a lot funner. And I'm really looking forward to continuing to play them. I really need to finish these 2 models that I was given by Jay and Holder so that I can actually start painting some skeletons.
I know why you like Archon the Black so much. He kind of looks like Papa Emeritus.
I was about to say that just by the names alone, not that I've played the game, but I've seen a lot of stuff from it. I watch you guys play and talk to you guys about the game, especially Holder for that 3-hour conversation we had. The game's lore and the names of some of the spells and some of the champions or whatnot are metal as fuck.
Oh yeah, especially like most everything in the Death. It's called Grand Alliance. There's 4 Grand Alliances, and everything that's in the Death Grand Alliance is pretty metal. Like one faction in the Death is they're just vampires with skeletons and zombies and zombie dragons and all this shit, and they're called Soul Blight Grave Lords. Like,
yeah, that's pretty metal.
Straight out of Norway. Like,
Archon has the second best hat in the faction. The first one is Nagash, Supreme Lord of the Undead, who has the best hat in Age of Sigmar.
In previous editions, he was 50% hat by volume.
Yeah. yeah, that's one thing I've been doing. Another thing is I actually got around to rewatching the third movie in Park Chan-wook's Vengeance trilogy, Lady Vengeance. And I actually got to finally watch. I've had these movies for forever, and I just haven't rewatched these two. But I finally got to watch what's called the fade to white version of it, which is the movie starts in color and it slowly desaturates as it goes through, and it ends up in black and white, which is really, really a cool effect. This is definitely like the most stylish of the three movies. It's less bleak than all three of them. It's a little bit more straightforward, but it's still very good. The plot is this young woman gets sentenced to prison for kidnapping and killing this child, but she had to confess because the real killer had taken her daughter and said, like, hey, I'm going to kill her if you don't confess to this murder. And she spends the 13 years in prison building relationships with the people that she's in prison with, because you're in like this communal room kind of in Korean prison. And she gets out and she concocts this plan of, okay, this is how I'm going to get this guy back. And she gets out and starts, fulfilling that plan, and it'll like she'll meet up with somebody and they'll flash back to, oh, this is how she helped them in the prison, and now they're helping her. It's a very interesting movie. I'm glad that when we talked about Old Boy, you mentioned about how guns are so illegal in Korea,
right?
And something that I didn't, and that is something that I didn't like. It didn't click with me before, because like, so one of the things is she's given this book by somebody who was like a spy for North Korea, and in it you take out the pages and it makes a blueprint of a gun. So she goes to this like metal, like this one of the girls that she helped in prison, her husband is like works in like a metal shop thing. So she has him make this gun.
Oh,
and
shit.
It's like a really primitive gun. Like you get 2 shots and you have to be like super up close and everything. But now she has a fucking gun that she gets to use in it. And like knowing that little lore like made it, oh, okay, this makes sense why she had to go
why
do
would
all
you
of
go
this.
out of your way to make a gun?
And it didn't really, like when I first watched it way back in the day, I didn't think of that. But it's a really, really good movie. Like it's very, like I said, it's very, very stylish. But it's a good one. I'd say it's probably the second best of them. I think I rate them Old Boy, Lady Vengeance, and Sympathy for Mr. Vengeance. But they've reinforced like these are all 3 very, very good movies, I think.
Right.
So that's that. And the last thing I wanted to talk about was me and a friend of the pod, Jason Holder, went to Record Store Day in Hattiesburg at T-Bone Records, which is a really nice record shop in Hattiesburg, Mississippi. We got up not as early as we thought that we had to. They actually opened at 10, so it wasn't so bad.
You had to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, we were fully ready to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning to be there when they open at 8.
Because it's like first come, first serve with some of these records. Like
They only make so many
printings.
Yeah.
Well, specifically the limited edition ones.
And in fact, I'll talk about that in a second. We got there about an hour early, which was what we planned, and everything was going fine. This weird lady decided that she was going to come out with this little speaker on a microphone and start preaching to everybody. But that didn't, like, she lost her nerve like very quickly. Like apparently this was like literally the first time she's ever done that, and she said and she kept saying like, I'm super nervous. I half listened. I didn't really even hardly listen to it.
I feel bad for her.
Well, like as she was coming back and she kind of gave up, like towards the end, like somebody started talking with her. And I think that they were giving her like point, like, hey, you do this. I was barely listening.
Right.
As she would walk by, Holder and I would, because we didn't want to yell, so we just like talked over. But she was, I don't know, it was weird. I got pretty much everything that I wanted, except unfortunately, apparently there was a high demand for Macho Man's Randy Savage's rap album, so I didn't get that.
Well, duh.
I looked
Be a man, Hogan.
I looked over all the stuff like really, like we got in there kind of early. Like we were about midway through the line when we, by the time they started actually opening up. We were further back than I've been in the past, but that one was I never could find that. Maybe they only got one of those. I don't know.
Right.
I also, one of the ones that I really wanted was they had Stevie Nicks' Belladonna Live.
Oh shit.
Which I really wanted. That was like one of my top ones, and I couldn't. And that one was apparently sold out. But I got most of the stuff that I wanted. What did I get? I got Old Dirty Bastards Return to the 36 Chambers on picture disc. I got Nas's Godson Live. I got Orville Peck's Bronco. And then I got a little 45 single of a song called Bars Simpson, which is featuring some English rapper. I can't remember the guy's name, but it features MF Doom, who's a rapper that I really like. And then I got on a whim, because I couldn't find the other stuff, I got they had the Violent Femmes album. I can't remember what the name of the album is on picture disc. And it was the last one. And then as soon as I picked it up, I heard somebody asking, "Has anybody seen that Violent Femmes album?" I was like, let me tuck this.
No, me be like, yeah, I did. It's right here. Take it from my cold dead hands.
And then somehow she still saw it and was like, "How did you get that Violent?" I was like, "Yeah, it was over there." And she was like, "Oh, it's already gone then." I was like, "Yeah,
it's already gone."
You can just kiss. You can just kiss off into the sun.
I didn't even. I picked this up on a whim, but I'm not putting it back now. But yeah, it was we got a good little haul. I can't remember everything that Holder got, but yeah, it's a nice little thing to just do. But yeah, enjoyed that. So that's what I've been doing.
Cool beans.
How much was that Orville Peck album?
It was in the 30s, I think.
Okay,
not too bad.
The picture discs were the more expensive things.
Yeah.
They were like $45.
Right,
but,
that's understandable.
I think the old DB one, because it was a double album, was like $50.
Right.
But I don't think the Orville Peck album, like most of the other stuff, was in the 30s.
Yeah, he's not really. He's not like super well known. He's well known enough. I like his style.
As much as I'm not a big country guy, but like his aesthetic,
it's very like slow, laid back, Western.
It's like Western West. It's like older country.
It's old West stuff.
Yeah,
it's like
country nowadays. Like I cannot stand. Like most of the stuff is like not good to me.
Right.
But I've heard of some of his stuff, and I don't know. I also like dudes with the gimmick, and he wears like a mask.
He does have a gimmick,
and that also draws me to him. So like, it's a really cool. It's like a gold album, but it's like Ripley on the inside, so it looks like it's poured. It looks really, really cool.
His music sounds like something that would be played in a mid '80s David Lynch movie.
Yeah,
like Blue Velvet or something.
Yeah,
or any David Lynch movie,
except for Dune.
Yeah.
No, fuck that. It'll be in Dune too. What the fuck?
He does have a song called Daytona Sand.
There you go.
But yeah, it was a pretty good haul. In the past, there's been other record store days where I'm like, oh my God, I have to have this.
Right.
There wasn't really anything like that. I think Belladonna, the Stevie Nicks album, was like the closest thing, but I didn't get that. But I'm not like pulling my hair out. The line this year was like super long to wait just to actually check out was like super long. Like it was longer than like we waited longer to check out than we did to.
One more quick question about it: how often do they do these limited record drops?
Most of the time, I think nowadays now it's gone back to a once a year thing.
Once a year, gotcha.
To
try and drive.
I know a few years ago when I went, they were actually like two record store days. And I think that they do something for Black Friday as well.
That makes sense.
But like the big record store day is like once a year now.
Gotcha.
I think.
Age-wise, the demographic, what was it like in there?
So Hattiesburg is like super hipstery now. It was a good mix. There were some older people there.
University towns tend that way a lot.
Very true.
It was it was a good mix. There were some younger people there. There was a few older people there.
Any fedoras? Anybody?
No, there wasn't any fedoras, but there was a
in my mind, nothing but fedoras.
There was a jazz band that set up.
Hell yeah,
that's awesome.
With a huge stand-up bass.
Fuck yeah, great. Dude! I love that.
I dig that.
So yeah, I did. It's like Holder got into, because I was looking around like making sure, like let me make sure I cannot find these two things that I'm looking for, and if I can't find, you know, I wanted to make absolutely sure I didn't want to just miss them.
Right.
So he was ahead of line in me in line. I was like, hey. Because Holder talks about, hey, I bought a bass, an electric bass, and I was like, hey, that's the bass that you should have gotten when the guy pulled out like the huge stand-up bass.
Hell yeah!
You can combine an electric bass and a stand-up bass for an electric stand-up bass, and you would be the most metal that ever meddled.
Yeah,
pretty metal.
It's a nice thing. I enjoy it because I'm without the I don't look like a hipster, but I have you know a lot of things hipstery that I like about that I like. So.
Well, and also, it's a hobby, and it's a collecting hobby that you enjoy, and, the collecting of it produces fun things to like take your mind off.
It's also like when you
just like that area, in like that part of Hattiesburg, I've got to where I
is
really
it sentimental for you?
Some of it, but I was kept going like, oh, this used to be here, and this used to be like,
oh yeah,
oh, so it's sad sentimental. Yeah.
No, because like it's not like super sad, but like they've just built up a lot of like there's kind of like a across from USM where it used to just be like these apartment buildings that got almost completely destroyed during a tornado. They built up like this whole, it's almost like a strip mall area.
That's cool.
And
as
we
long
ate
as the strip mall's populated.
we ate
it's analog horror.
Yeah. We had this place called Ed's Drive-In or Ed's Burgers or something like that.
Yeah, I know of it. Yeah, no, good choice.
Really, really good. Really good.
All right.
Yeah.
Brady, Jody has a rant eventually,
Oh.
and I don't want him to lose energy.
Well, I mean,
I was trying to stop.
I'm the one.
Because you were providing us with interesting things.
I was the one that was like grilling Brady on his.
I wrapped up. And
I wanted more. I needed more about that record store.
Jody. So I mean, we're probably gonna go back next year.
He just hit me up. I just it was a rough week for me.
Yeah.
But So what I've been doing this week, I've been doing a lot actually. So I finished binge watching the first season and into the next 3 or 4 episodes of the second season of Yellow Jackets, which is a phenomenal fucking show.
Oh yeah, that first season
there's a couple named actresses in it, like Christina Ricci plays a very pivotal role. Trying to say 2 words at once. It's funny because like she plays Christy. And they have like there's like the
what's the other?
I don't remember the name of the young actress.
There's Melanie Linsky, and then the other girl. She's also a well-known actress. What's like? Why can't
Juliette Lewis?
Juliette Lewis.
Yeah, Juliette Lewis.
Her name just flew out of my brain.
Right. So like this show's telling like 2 different stories at the same time. So like I mentioned before when I mentioned the show. There's no spoiler really because you kind of like, go into it knowing that these girls are in a soccer team. They make nationals. They're in a plane. The plane goes down somewhere in Canada, in the middle of the Canadian wilderness. So they have no fucking clue where they're at.
Yeah. They should just be filthy with wendigos.
But you do know, from the, present day setting of at least while you're being showed who survived, whether they survived with or without PTS, I'm pretty sure they all are fucked up. Pretty mentally all fucked up. And
they start with like where they're pretty far into the wilderness and there's weird shit that's been going
they're
on.
always like some people are wearing
they tease you with stuff.
You're like, I can't wait till we get to wherever this is. That starts out with like a bunch of people sitting around a fire wearing like skins of animals and eating meat off of a platter, which you could assume how bad that probably ends up being because they were in the wilderness for 13 months, and only one of those was summer.
Yeah.
So, most of
the rest is the season of Canada.
Yeah.
Most of the first season after about the halfway mark, they're in winter, and even in the second season leading in,
I
they're
think the
still
first
in
season
winter.
they're getting like it's just getting into winter towards the end of the season.
Right. Yeah, that's true because they kind of like they kind of like speed up time here and there. They take a long time to establish what's going on when they crash, and then like they find a cabin and all this other stuff or whatnot, and then they're trying to figure out like how to survive and figure out how to hunt and things like that. And then they flash forward to present day where like what's the main chick's name? Shauna, The character,
so, yeah.
Shauna. Shauna is a soccer mom, kind of. her 20-something stay-at-home college daughter, which you find out, that's how old she is. Because I thought she was a teenager, but apparently she's in her 20s.
Yeah.
Hates her guts. Her husband's an idiot.
Yeah.
And you find out how much of an idiot he is. He is really stupid. Brick stupid. And Shauna is hidden crazy. Christy is straight up crazy.
Yeah.
And she's crazy.
Character,
right. She's crazy from the beginning. Shauna's like, I'm pretending to not be crazy, but I'm really fucking crazy. So that show's been really cool, and I really can't go into much detail about anything with it without giving anything away, not to mention that my memory is shit.
Yeah.
So
it's best experience where you get some of those reveals.
Because there's a lot of stuff happening on 2 different time frames all at the same time. So, and they tie in very well together. They do it very, very well.
Because they start getting like weird messages saying that they're gonna like reveal what happened and everything, and they keep talking about how we cannot they don't really have anything to do with each other,
right?
But like they're like, we cannot talk about anything that happened.
It's pretty much established at the beginning that the adult versions of the people that survived don't want anything to do with each other because the shared trauma, I think, is the main reason. And the whole plot line of the present day is like, we're getting messages that somebody knows something because there's a symbol that's very well known within the group, and they all get they all get this symbol in the mail or on their phone or something, and that freaks them out, and they start they have to start talking to each other, and then you pretty much find out like right at the beginning it was just like they can't find out what happened, and you're like, oh, I can't wait to find out what's happened. So that's been pretty good. And through the recommendation of Brady, watched Good Time, which I think Good Time, unlike Uncut Gems, there is a couple of moments in Good Time where you can breathe.
A little bit. I will say that.
And
and then he makes out with a 16-year-old.
That's what I was about to say. And then it gets really uncomfortable when like Robert Pattinson goes, how old are you? First off, that's a red flag.
Yeah.
You don't never ask. If you have to ask, they're too young.
That's a fire alarm.
Yeah.
Forget red flag.
It's okay. He did it as a distraction so they wouldn't see him on the news.
Before the distraction,
the news making out with an underage girl.
He goes, you look older than 16, and you're like, oh no. But that movie's pretty fucking stressful.
Yeah, he's somehow less redeemable than Adam Sandler's character.
Yeah, he is less redeemable. He is a absolute piece of garbage. His character is a piece of garbage. Yeah. The movie, I will say without spoiling anything, the movie starts out with him and his brother, who's severely mentally handicapped, rob a bank together. And then shit goes fucking south after that.
Yeah.
It's like Dog Day Afternoon for a new era.
It's Dog Day Afternoon meets Uncut Gems.
Yeah.
Is what it feels like.
It is just like the Safdie brothers are the best at, just white knuckle stress. Like you were just like, oh my God, how are you making? Oh my God, it gets worse. Oh my God, it gets worse.
Would you call the style cinema uncomfortable?
That is
close cinema uncomfortable. There's a scene in the movie where I'm just like, oh yeah, that dude is definitely gonna die right here. I
always think of Indina Menzel as a sweetheart, and then you watch Uncut Gems, like, nope, disregard.
Right?
Disregard.
Definitely. Yeah. So that was a fun time, and then my buddy Connell Domino and his wife and a buddy of ours.
Shout out Jeannie.
And our buddy Anthony Ryan, we sat down to play the starter kit for the Blade Runner using the Mutant Year Zero rules. I think that's what Connell referred it to for Free League.
Free League,
okay.
Which, as far as the game mechanics go, you have like 4 different abilities, such as like speed, intelligence, and all that generic stuff. And then below that, like much like in Vampire or whatever, you have like the other skills that are associated with that specific attribute. So if you have like a speed roll or something, not a speed roll, but if you have something that's associated with the speed skill, like let's just say it's not on there, but let's just say it's running. Let's just say, for example, that your character's like skill in running is a D6 because all your skills are broken down by different dice. There are 4 different dice. You have D6, D8, D10, and D12.
Yeah.
You would roll your skill dice and your attribute dice together.
Okay.
And so most of the successes is like 6 or better. So if you roll a D12 with your D6 and you get like 2 successes off your D12 if you roll a 12. And so ones don't count for anything unless you push. So you can push in the game. So if you fail a roll, you can re-roll. And if you roll a 1 there, then you get stress on your character, which is another form of damage.
I dig that.
So it's really good. And as we were playing it, we were taking breaks here and there or whatnot, because there was definitely like a lot of narrative stuff that's happening. Because it is Blade Runner, and that's going to happen.
And also, and I apologize for interjecting this one. Free League again. I'll come back to again. Story first, like role playing. Like if you've ever played Tales from the Loop, Things from the Flood, even the Alien RPG, which they've also done.
I played that too.
Yeah. Okay. It's very story forward, and so there's a lot of world building, and I greatly appreciate that. I'm not as big a fan of the dice system from Tales and Things because you have to roll sixes are your only success. You do get a number of dice, but like in order to quote unquote guarantee for the most part that you'll fall within a probability of at least getting 1, you have to have 6 dice in a thing, and that's
too much.
That's a lot to pull out on some characters.
So the time frame in your day as a character is split up into 4 shifts. They're 6-hour shifts. So basically, if you want to go to like, X corporation to talk to somebody about a replicant that you need to, find out information on, that is a shift. Okay. So it actually behooves you to split the party. Okay. If you have multiple tasks that you need to do all at once, it's like, okay, you need to go to the bar, you need to go to this corporation, I need to check out with the morgue and check out information on the stiff, and then that's your shift basically.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, and then you all get to, so it helps in a lot of ways because like if you need a break or whatever, like the other player and the DM or GM is talking like the whole time, and the information may be relevant for you, but you can be filled in on it if you need to step out for a minute or whatever. And I really enjoyed it a lot. And I told Connell that after we were done with the session, and I told Gene while we were outside, I'm like, I'm loving everything that's happening. It's different. It's a different experience than you normally get with tabletop. However, not for me, but I can see outsider looking in, this would not be for everybody. Yeah. Because
that's the hallmark of a free league.
Because if you have a game in which one player is interacting with the game master for at least 20 minutes or longer, you're going to be bored typically. Yeah. But the story's engaging, everything's interesting, and the way everything is paced out, it's all purposefully done. So it makes sense as long as you are like, in the mindset of where you need to be while you're playing that game. Okay. So I didn't know that going into it, but I was able to adjust for it as we were playing. And it was a really fun experience, and I got to do a lot of really cool role playing. I played a character who was like former military, was in one of the wars against the replicants or whatever, and then saw replicants sacrificing one another for each other, and made me disgusted with biased against replicants basically as a character. So it's like people calling them skin bags or whatever. I'm like, I don't like that. I don't think that's cool. So a little bit more like a sympathizer, I guess. Yeah. So
narratively, I like when the party splits up. I don't like splitting up parties, saying the classic Dungeons and Dragons, right, where they're split in the dungeon. But what I like to do, I like to take characters away and like in social interactions, so that I can explore their character with it's just the GM and me and the player, and just like see what we can kind of wring out of that, and see where they're going, and see where, and just if the little seed drops, I can just pick up and it's like, okay, I'll plant this and then we'll move this on later. I really appreciate Blade Runner for
it
doing
works.
that.
It works too. Like, and I want to piggyback off of what you said just now, because we're gonna use D&D, I'm sorry, as like getting thrown under the bus, because it's usually like the reason why people get angry while they're playing any RPG. The problem with D&D is if you get like 4 or 5 people in a game, and you have some sort of diplomacy thing that's happening where there's role playing, and you have more than one player at the table that's really good at role playing, and also their character's really good at diplomacy, you're going to have an issue of, but I want to talk now. I want to do the thing and talk to the king about the thing because I can do that. And then you have another player going, yeah, but I also can do the thing and I can do it better because I have one more point in there. And it's, yeah. So I'm glad that exists in another game setting where you can actually system where you can actually have everybody can shine.
Yeah, real quick.
Yeah.
Wizards of the Coast, if you listen to this, we like D&D. D&D is cool. Don't send Pinkerton agents.
Yeah, we don't have any advanced D&D stuff here.
And
we're not going to do a YouTube video about it.
D&D, it's really cool. Really looking forward to D&D Beyond or whatever you're calling it.
Oh God, they're here!
Oh shit!
Oh no!
That's Hasbro. That's Big Papa Hasbro. My rant. Okay,
you ain't taking me alive, Black Lotus.
So we've gotten to the part where I have a rant. I don't have these very often because, our numbers probably dip. But
Ethan, check. Oh, he's not here. Never mind.
Yeah, usually the rant's between Brady and Ethan. And then sometimes I shit on Ethan. But anyway, moving on. So I found out, like about maybe 2 weeks beforehand, that Square Enix was releasing a remaster of the first 6 Final Fantasy games.
You're talking about the Pixel remasters?
The Pixel remasters, 1 through 6. You can buy them digitally all at once, or you can buy them separately digitally, or whatever, which is fine. I find out days beforehand that there was an opportunity to get a physical copy of all 6 games for $74.99 on the Switch. I find out, though, that you had to pre-order through Square Enix in order to get that too late. And so thanks, Square, for not letting your fan base know that this was happening, and also to make a limited supply of something that you were probably going to sell out of if you made like 10,000 of them.
Yes.
And
they did a very similar thing when they did the Legend of Mana. Because they did a very limited run of that, and I jumped on that because Secret of Mana is probably my favorite adventure RPG, action adventure RPG of all time. And it was cool to go back to the Final Fantasy adventure, and really the whole series is the Seiken Densetsu series, but over here it's the Of Mana series, because the third one is called Trials of Mana, which they also did a complete remake of in modern day graphics and play style, which I haven't got a hold of, but I kind of do want to get it.
So it's not just that. That is tied into something else I was going to complain about. So I overheard this from a GameStop employee to another a customer while I was looking through the Switch games the other day. And I overheard him asking, hey, do you have a copy of the new Metroid Prime remaster? Anyway, no, I don't. In fact, the only copies we would get of that game would be used, because the only new copies we get are now from pre-orders, because the companies are dialing back the amount of physical copies that they are putting out into the wild. That makes me very angry.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. One of the big ways that I'm an old person is that I really want physical media. Like, I don't like some of the things that they've been doing with digital media, to where you kind of don't really own what you buy, and that rubs me the wrong way. So I completely feel you on that one.
Because the digital storefronts are not finite. Yeah. Like whenever the Switch evolves to whatever the next console is, eventually, like if my memory card is full, I won't be able to delete and download all the games that I've purchased.
What was it just recently? Sony. What was it? Was it Sony with the or was it one of the?
No, Nintendo shut down
was one
the
of the
Wii
old-
U
yeah,
and
the Wii-
3DS store.
Yeah,
Wii U,
3DS store. Yeah, so you can't buy those games digitally anymore,
Yeah.
and you can't download them. Well, you might be able to, but I don't know.
No. You can't even download.
You can't even
them.
download them anymore.
No, you had to have bought it and downloaded
Which
it. Prior
this goes
the
to like issues of like if you believe video games is art, this gets in the way of that preservation because if it's all just ones and zeros, a keystroke could take care of it.
Yeah.
For me, my anger is still there for it, but it's been dulled by the inevitability of this. Like especially when for me the first opening door of it was on the 360 when Netflix became a thing that you could do on your console. At that point, you have data streaming, which means you could eventually have games streaming. Not so much even that you're going to be downloading video games onto your card and at least have like that SD card has it on there. And you at least take it. No, you're going to stream games.
Yeah.
And they tried doing that with Google Stadia. I think the Kingdom Hearts series, you can play Kingdom Hearts 1, 2, and 3 on the Switch, but I believe that you have to have a active streaming account to do it. Resident Evil 8, I believe, is a Village you can also do on the Switch, but it's going to be a streaming thing where it's not going to be inherent on your Switch, either on a drive or an SD or removable SD card. I don't like it. I'm not believe me. I'm not saying, but I'm so worn down by the fact that this train has been barreling at us for a long time, and it's sad. And I think it's one of the reasons why. And we're gonna talk. I'm gonna bring this up very briefly when we're talking about something in our main topic, as far as modernity and what it has influenced us in doing. I don't know to what percent, but I believe there is some small percent of people that get into vinyl because it is a physical media.
Oh, yeah.
Because it is a tangible physical media that you can own and hold in your hand.
That has a lot to do with it. I mean, I have a humongous library of Blu-rays and DVDs that can attest to like needing that physical media.
One thing I wanted to capstone on this before we move on is that I'm not opposed to us going into an all digital situation, which I already knew that was happening. I have an issue with not even owning the things that you're buying digitally.
That's my big problem, and that's why I'm just like an old person clawing on to like holding
Death
onto
grip.
a death grip to these older things, is because it's not just that okay, it's digital and I can download it and I can buy it and it can be there forever. It's that now it's starting to where I don't even really own the stuff. Like at any point in time, they can decide, okay, we're stopping you having the ability to play this, even though you paid full price for it.
Right. And
I really don't like that. It's the same thing. Like somehow we're all okay now with paying for a subscription to use Microsoft Office instead of every few
and
years
that
we have to
subscription
buy.
is $100.
Yeah, it's like they're slowly getting us used to these things, and that I see are a big problem. Like that's my
why,
thing.
That's why I have Open Office on my computer.
Yeah, my big thing is that like if I buy something, whether it's digital or physical, I want to be able to own it, and it's getting to where nowadays the only way that is absolutely true is with physical media. Even though they have tried as hard as possible, even with physical media, to make that not be so. See all the shit that they did with digital rights management and all that bullshit that they put on discs.
That and SOPA and PIPA and the fact that those were defeated once, but they could rear their ugly heads again. For me, let me say this: I have Amazon Music. That's my primary music stuff on there. Stuff that I bought in now, when I say bought, I mean purchased the album, the MP3 album digitally, but because I bought it on a certain type of sale. When they did their most recent update with Amazon Music, I don't have access to those albums anymore except shuffled. Some of those albums, for instance, my favorite album of all time, Bat Out of Hell, I don't listen to that shuffled. The order of those songs fucking matter.
Right.
Anything Pink Floyd, the order of the songs fucking matter.
Yeah.
They're telling a story over thing. Just like recently with Ghost, like Ghost, because Prequel specifically. Prequel is a kind of retelling of the Black Plague, as an album, as that's the backdrop of the album. That's why one of the first things you hear about in the song is, first of all, is "Ring Around the Rosie," which is the opening prelude, and then it goes straight into "Rats." If you mix these songs up, in my opinion, you are mixing the entire theme of the album.
Yeah. Music is a whole big thing because now they've gotten us, like, used to we were like, oh, $1 for a song, that's too much, and now it's like, okay, don't buy the music anymore, just have a subscription service, which I use the fuck out of Amazon Music. Like they've gotten us on that, and they've gotten me on that, so I'm trying to hold on to some of these other things like movies and video games and stuff like that. I'll probably have to. I was gonna wait to get the Metroid Prime remaster, but I probably am going to have to.
Yeah, if you find a physical copy, I saw one at Walmart.
Yeah, Walmart
for $40.
Walmart has them.
So, and you could probably still buy them online, but GameStop specifically.
Well, then you start talking about the secondary market. Like, forget GameStop. GameStop, honestly, is kind of reasonable in that regard. If you get scalpers involved in this, that $40 super SD card becomes like a $250 fucking SD card.
Final Fantasy 1 through 6 right now is $400 on the Switch.
Yes,
on
I
the
can see
Switch.
that. I've got them digitally on Steam, in part because I wanted to go back and play the Final Fantasies of my youth, but also to play the Final Fantasies that I missed. Final Fantasy 2 is the worst 2D Final Fantasy of all time.
Right.
Yeah, on this we agree.
But I respect the fact they tried to have storytelling at a time where it was really hard to put story in games because you didn't have the file space and size.
Right.
Well, my problem with 2 isn't the storytelling; it's the system that's so
the leveling up system.
obtuse.
I like to break games, and so it's like, so what you're telling me is I put in all of these commands, and right before I cancel it all out, but I still get the benefit of the command, which they have gotten rid of. They made fixes to 2 to make it better, but it is still noticeably subpar, especially compared to 3, which is the first time the job system comes into play.
Which is my favorite thing about one of my favorite things about Final Fantasy.
Yeah,
the job system.
it's. I don't particularly like the pixel remasters. Didn't like really grab me because I don't like that the look of them. I didn't really like, but probably eventually that's probably going to be the only version that you can get legally.
Or you again pay out the ass on the secondary market because it's just rife.
It's funny that it's probably cheaper to buy the anthology series on PS1 and PSP than it is for the it's 1 through 6, $74.99 digitally. Physical copies. What I'm saying.
Probably not
physical copy.
The reason why I would say it might not be. I won't shut the door on it, but there is a more fluid market for like the Super Nintendo games because there's a vast, vibrant, and sometimes very cutthroat collector's market for Super Nintendo games.
Well, yeah,
particularly the pinnacle games.
That's why I was referring to the PSP and the PS1 remasters, not remasters, but the remake.
But what I mean there is that like the PS1 one, yes, the PSP, because that system was not as popular as a Super Nintendo, as a PlayStation, things like that. I think the scarcity of that comparatively might make it harder.
Well,
yeah, you can get it on eBay for about the anthology, which is 5 and 6, for about $20 to $40
on PSP or PS1.
PS1.
Oh yeah.
See, the PSP one is the one that I think would be out there because of just the
possibly. I don't even remember if they did 5 and 6 on the PSP, but I do know they did 1 and 2.
They did 1 and 2. Because I think I had that one. I had one. I bought one.
They did a version of it for the Game Boy Advance, which I think was called like Dawn of Souls and Dawn of it wasn't Dawn of Ages, but I think the first one was Dawn of Souls.
Well, I think we prattle on enough about Final Fantasy and all that. Jay,
that was a very well timed rant. Let me give you silent applause.
Thank you.
Okay, there we go. All right, yeah. And Ethan is okay. Ethan's not here. You had to remember that. Sorry about that, ladies. But ladies and gentlemen, thank you for coming out tonight, or this morning, or this afternoon, and listening to us rattle on about some of the things that we've been doing. Greatly appreciate that you are here. And if you have friends who would like to listen to this podcast, or you think would like to listen to this podcast, we're available on Spotify, Amazon, Google, and Apple. The Saga. I've tried Stitcher again, and I'm for some reason I'm spooked out by their terms of service for some reason. Like the Apple one didn't scare me, but there was I don't know why. I'm reading through it again, so just be sure on that. So we may be on Stitcher here in the near future. And if you would like to get in touch with us directly, you can get in touch with us at our email address, travelersontheomnibus@gmail.com. Again, that is travelersontheomnibus@gmail.com. 1 L in Travelers. Jody, where else can they get in touch
You can
with us?
reach us directly through Spotify and take part in any polls we may be having.
Yes, polls and questions.
Also, we're on Twitch and Instagram.
We're not on Twitch.
Twitter. God damn it. We're on Twitter and
None of us have the time and effort to
spoilers.
put
We
into
have in
Twitch.
the Happy Happies. We have a new Twitch. We have a new Twitch friend.
Oh, awesome.
Oh,
So
okay.
I want to bring that up because I think it's pretty good.
Rad-tacular.
So we do have one piece of a passenger feedback this week.
Okay.
Cool.
Better than One Piece the anime.
It's our friend /enemy/frenemy. It is Kevin Gallo, aka Ron and Rooster on Twitch and Kevin Gallo on YouTube. Tell Brady that I specifically looked for Tiefling Tail, and it shows up a lot in the movie. This is reference to Brady's review
Jesus
of.
Christ, man, you are. Who's in whose head now? That was like what, 5 shows ago?
I don't even know what this is referring to.
Brady had mentioned in his review of Dungeons and Dragons: Honor Among
You don't
Thieves
see the Tiefling's
that
tail.
you
Like I
don't
didn't
see
even
the
know she was a
Oh,
Tiefling.
now I remember.
And then I kept going. And then when they finally said she was, maybe before they said she was a tiefling, like they showed her tail a lot. But
Right.
like I didn't know what she was.
Right.
But when they said she was a tiefling, then I was like, well, I haven't seen her tail. And then all of a sudden, like towards the end, like there's a few
a little
times at the end, but there's a lot of times where she's just kind of walking around and you don't see her tail.
Would you say that Kevin was chasing Tail?
Apparently, I don't know.
Ladies and gentlemen,
but sure.
in a future podcast, Kevin Gallo will come on the show, and it'll be Kevin Gallo versus Brady Davis in What is Too Much Tail?
What was his feedback exactly? What did he say?
Tell Brady that I specifically looked for Tiefling Tail, and it shows up a lot in the movie. My response back was, okie dokes.
Congratulations, Kevin. You spent the entirety of the D&D movie looking for tail on the tiefling. Good job.
There you go.
Tails.
That's our feedback for this week. My cousin Lionel actually loved the last episode, and he said he was going to pass on some feedback. But then I told him about like how much Nurgle likes bells, and like he's looking into it. And he thinks he might, because he is a potter by a hobbyist trade, a teacher by actual trade, and an art teacher, and a very, very good one. Cousin nepotism, but
Right.
I do believe the world of him, and he may be starting doing some pottery like gross looking bells, and that might be something cool that we might want to get our hands on.
I'm glad you emphasize pottery and not Potter, because he's not a Harry Potter fan by hobby. He's a potter.
We know many people like that though.
What was last episode? I don't remember.
Chalkboard. It's literally right there.
Okay, yeah.
That thing.
The top 5 horror movie villains of all time.
Oh yeah, that one.
That's the one where politics got Jigsaw on the list, but Hannibal Lecter won out anyway.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
For some reason, I have Hannibal Lecter. Oh, no, I think I tried to underline top 5, and it accidentally crossed.
Right.
That was unintentional. I apologize on that one.
A working title for Hannibal was Ray Liotta's brain.
It got worked on.
Yeah.
Anyway, enough ribaldry. It's time for the main event. So, ladies and gentlemen, as you've already seen from the title of this is Everything Everywhere All at Punk. This is basically all of the blank punk genres that aren't cyberpunk. Because we've been talking about this for a while. Cyberpunk was actually probably one of our favorite episodes, I think, collectively. It's just
It was a good one.
But there are a lot of other punk genres that are out there. And we wanted to kind of explore them, but they don't really, at least for us, I know maybe for out there, maybe there's, and this is one where I would really like feedback on which of these genres kind of affected you more as far as that goes. And hopefully we touch on them in a way that is respectful to them, and hopefully you like it. If you don't like it, please let us know, and so we can have that conversation. I would like to start out with this. We're going to be saying a lot of words, things like diesel, steam, like a whole bunch of things, but
Deco,
Western or cowboy punk, we're cattle punk. Thank you. We're going to be mentioning a lot of words in the front, but I want to focus on the rear word that is always the constant in this. I want to talk about punk. So when we're talking about these genres, is it not like I'll bring it up again? Is it not cyberpunk? Is it not steampunk? If there isn't some sort of like fight or some kind of tension between an authority, whether it is a man-made authority like a government or a company, or if it's something that's even more inscrutable like, say, nature or the gods or things like that. That has to, when we're talking about this, that has to be present in this, correct? Am I wrong in thinking that?
For the most part, I think.
I would think so. With the exception of steampunk.
Not all of them. It's weird because there is kind of a couple of different camps. Like, so one of the things is like this can get like super granular, and it could be to where you could argue to where one thing fits into multiple of these categories because they've like, just from researching it, they've gotten like super specific with this. But I want to say, at least starting out, like, we're not going to try and say, oh, this, like, definitively say this is this kind of punk or this is this kind of punk. I think it's more just exploring these ideas is what I want to focus on. But I did notice that while I was looking through it, like, there's basically like two things that could do like a punk thing, and that is it's either a time period or it's some kind of technology. It's usually one of those two things. Like steampunk, that's Victorian, whereas diesel punk tends to be around the World War I, World War II eras. But then sometimes, something it's actually like a technology, or it's a theme, and stuff like that.
So just do you believe that these things can exist without that kind of sense of rebellion or the sense of like fighting against like some sort of oppression?
I think that is a general theme that can run through them, but I think that this has gotten so that with this it's gotten so granular that's not absolutely necessary in everything. Because oftentimes, like when you do steampunk things, it's at least like when you read a book or something about that, oftentimes there is that kind of struggle. But there is just the aesthetic. There's people who just like to put gears and they like air on shit, and they like goggles and airships and stuff like that. So you could take it either way. When you get to like actual media stuff, like movies, TV shows, games, books, stuff like that, I think you see that more often. But there's also just the aesthetic of it. So maybe it's two different sides of it, I guess.
I would say also like, things that have been, retroactively put in let's just go with steampunk here for a minute, that have been put in that genre, things that have influenced that as a subgenre, weren't noted as that when they were relevant in mainstream society, such as the stories of H.G. Wells and Jules Verne, which those are definitely a lot. Not all of H.G. Wells' stuff is steampunk.
Jules Verne can definitely,
but Jules Verne's a lot of steampunky,
proto-steampunk,
in a lot of different facets.
But see now, okay, is it there that it's steampunk, or is he just expressing notions of futurism in how they understood the scientific world?
I think
that has a lot to do
with it. And I think, like Brady said, I think the aesthetics of those stories kind of influenced what would become steampunk in a lot of different, different forms.
I think with this you could take like an aesthetic side, but you can also take when it comes to like a story driven side. And I would argue with the story driven side, when you're actually like trying to create stories in these types of world. Because some people just they like drawing fucking airships, so like they just do steampunk shit. But then when you get on the thinking of a lot of media that falls into each of these genres, there is some kind of struggle or oppression happening in those. So I think that it could be said, at least partially, that is a very common thing.
Well, then let's start with, at least for me, what I think is the biggest one of the ones that is left, which is steampunk.
Yeah.
And where I think about it, it's very much like cyberpunk, because if you think about it, what are two of the most exploitative eras that we can think of, at least literarily? You think of cyberpunk, you think of like the modern corporation and all these other things. But if you go back to the 1900s, the Victorian era, like
Yeah.
the end of the age of the end of colonization, not
Yeah,
colonialism,
and the beginning of industrialism.
and the beginning of industrialism, where they were exploiting their own people and the people of other cultures.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot to rebel from there. They may not be doing it but for writers that are writing at that time, like a Jules Verne, like I was almost about to say Isaac Asimov because I'm fucking idiot. H.G. Wells.
H.G. Wells, yeah.
I don't think necessarily that they're writing for or against in there. I think steampunk afterward is writing against that as a way to kind of express anger at what was going on.
The industrial boom at the late 1800s to the early 1900s.
Yeah. It's one of the reasons why the airship to me is kind of significant in the genre, because it's that notion of fly and be free and be away from all of it, and so like the notion of that.
There's oftentimes
pirates.
like a sky pirate thing.
Yeah,
and I think also like the window of that influence of that historically. Like kind of ends with the Hindenburg kind of like cuts off that by being a possibility for travel, because that killed Zeppelin travel after the Hindenburg, and so I think the pretty much like the 50-year window you get in between like 1880 or 1870 to like 1920 1930. The Hindenburg was what, in the 30s?
It was in the 30s because it was actually a Nazi balloon.
Right.
You can find pictures of the Hindenburg with
the early to mid 30s basically. And when that kind of ended, that sort of like capsulated the 30 or 40 years of the industrial boom kind of like coming to an end in the way that it was going up until that point.
Yeah,
and then we have the World War II kind of starting off but we're gonna
there and then you kind of blend into World War War, and then now you get into diesel punk, which is very, because there's two types of 1920s and 30s punk that we can talk about here. Diesel is one of them, but I think it's very war focused, because at that time the world was very focused on war, for obvious reasons. But in peacetime, it was about big cities. It was about, like, again, and there's always this era of what do we think the future, like, at least for a lot of these, I won't say all of them, but for a lot of these punks, is what is the future going to look like, and who are the people that are shaping that in the present. And so diesel punk has, I think, a contemporary form in Deco punk.
Yeah.
Deco punk, which is like Art Deco, but with the punk aesthetic.
When I was reading about it, they explained it as like, Deco punk is diesel punk where everything is chromed. Like, it's basically everything is clean and everything is chromed.
I would say chrome and marble.
Yeah, whereas
marble
diesel is about like dirtiness and griminess and things like that.
Okay, no, I can get.
And also the Art Deco movement is a short window.
Yes,
as well. Like we're talking like 10, 15 years.
Question: Batman the animated series, Deco punk.
I saw
specifically the animated,
the animated series.
Yeah, I saw that it, like, I don't know if it's Deco punk, but it's definitely Art Deco.
Yeah,
like it's heavily influenced by Art Deco. I saw that in some of my where they threw that out as an example of Deco punk. I don't think it fits into that like that.
I think the first Superman cartoon is very like Art Deco, but is it Deco punk and diesel punk?
I see. I think that is Art Deco because it's existing at the time where that like idea and that image is like being expressed. Where I think, and again, this may be a distinction between like Art Deco and Deco punk, or like, let's say, like Victorian era and steampunk, in that the people writing in the time are writing that, whereas people commenting on it later that's where you start getting to the punks.
I see that, but I also think that something else with these like different punk genres is also like it's calling back to a specific time, but there's also like some advanced technology that still fits in with that time.
Futurism runs through everything.
Futurism, and I don't think you get that in Batman the Animated Series. That's why I would lean more towards it's like an
just
Art
being
Deco
Art
thing
Deco
than a Deco punk, because you don't really get that futurism with that. You of course, like Batman has gadgets and stuff like that,
but like I think of the episode with Hardak, three episodes in total, but really the two-parter, and then later the machine with a soul. I think the one with the Hardak computer and things like they are playing with like what would science look like if it had maintained in that?
Yeah, I can see that. But
Yeah, in those episodes,
I don't necessarily
for sure.
agree with, but again, like I don't want to get into like
Minutia
this and
of
this
all
is
that.
that.
And
I think a good example of something that is both diesel punk and Deco punk is BioShock, the original.
This was what I'm glad you brought it up, because this was something that like in our chat we usually just say, okay, what are we doing? And then when this got brought up, this actually got reactions from people. So Brady, kind of dig in with that for you. If you
Yeah,
would.
I think like it's a good example of that, because you do have the Art Deco look and everything, and there are parts of the game that is very clean, but it does have this but there is like it's a mix of like this cleanliness and this griminess, like this everything done in kind of an art style, but then also like it's like it's basically Deco punk that's been able to degrade. So it's falling into that diesel punk.
Well,
I
I
think.
mean, the Big Daddies, I always felt weird calling them steampunk, because steam doesn't really come out of them. They're very oily, grimy, things like that.
Yeah.
And then like the notion of diesel punk comes up. I think it is more Deco punk necessarily than diesel punk, but I think those units, the splicers too. Let me also throw the splicers in there as well.
Yeah,
I think it's also like BioShock is like one of the few examples of Deco punk in media.
Yeah, there's
like
not a whole.
There's
lot
not
of
a
them.
lot of Deco punk.
Yeah, BioShock was the main one that I wrote into that.
Yeah.
Okay, another question throw out here. Modern Dick Tracy, like the Dick Tracy movie, is that Art Deco because it's got a lot of that styling to it, or is it Deco punk, or is it something completely different?
Well, it's very noir.
Yeah,
It touches on a lot of
brought up
stones.
as well with like Deco punk, because again, like this is so granular. Like you will go to different websites and they'll say this is Deco punk, but then they'll say, well, this is diesel punk. Yeah. So it's hard for me to say. It's been so long since I haven't watched the Dick Tracy movie since I was a child. There's a possibility with that, but it could also. I probably would lean more towards that. I think a good one of Deco punk, or one that I can make a good argument with Deco punk is, now it's not a great movie, but the Shadow, the movie that was done, the Alec Baldwin.
Yeah.
I think that has some Deco punk with it, because there is like
Actually,
a lot of technology.
I will absolutely co-sign with you on that.
Yeah.
Yes.
What about Sin City?
Sin City, I think it's firmly noir.
Yeah.
I feel like,
Yeah.
because there's no like technology.
That's true.
And
That's true.
It deals with oppression, but it deals with oppression from the noir side more than the.
That's very true.
And it's honestly, it's almost more fantastical than it is science fiction with some of the stuff. Like, that was it, that Yellow Bastard.
Yeah.
I think is the name of it. Like that. He's writing a goblin without really writing him. You know, that's just at least my opinion on that.
There's a steampunk thing that I wanted to talk about. Actually,
go for it.
Yeah, that's fine.
No, we're gonna
jump around.
We're gonna jump around.
And-
There's something I want to mention about.
And this
steampunk
topic, I think, allows for a lot of jumping around, because you have some people who would treat subgenres of these genres as their own genres. So are we going back and forth?
yeah,
on
yeah.
stuff?
Now this property, if I may call it as such, was a really not good. It's
Good lead off.
yeah. I think it did okay in the box office, but it didn't stay very well in the box office, and it crosses over with the Western punk aesthetic.
Wiki wah, wiki wah wah west. Jim West. Okay,
Yeah. That movie is like, if you look into like steampunk forums, they love that fucking movie.
Yeah.
Because it's a bad movie, mainly because if anybody had any sort of ties to the original property that it was attached to, it's not any of that. It is not based off of anything to do with the original TV show.
No.
It is 100% steampunk in a Western setting, and it's something else.
What was this? What? So one of the people who was producing the movie, they were doing another movie.
Yes,
and it was
they
a
were.
very popular movie, and they wanted to put a giant spider.
Yes.
in it.
So here's what happened.
Jody, this is all you. Go for it.
So as Kevin Smith put it so very bluntly. In Hollywood, sometimes you fail upwards.
Yeah.
And so
Definitely.
there was this famous to insider people, not famous to anybody else until after the Wild Wild West movie. There was this hairdresser that somehow got attached to directing the, at the time, new Superman movie that Nick Cage was supposed to play Superman in.
Yeah.
And
Time out. I believe his name was John Peters.
okay.
He started out in the business as Barbra Streisand's hairdresser.
Yeah.
And he rose through the ranks to become a producer. He wasn't a director. He was a producer.
Right. Okay. So thanks for untangling that web of shit for me, Jay. Okay. So anyway, because Hollywood at the time was recognizing Kevin Smith as being like the biggest comic book fanboy of all time, they were like, hey, Kevin Smith, like, go over the script and talk to the producer, writer, or script writer, or whatever. Because I think the guy was writing the script too. And telling Kevin Smith how to write a script, which, I mean, he's not the best director, but I think he knows something about making movies more so than a guy who's never done a movie. And he was explaining to him, like, okay, every 10 pages we got to have something happen. And in the script, the main bad guy was Brainiac.
Yes.
And the guy that directed Wild Wild West was like many years before that movie got made was talking to Kevin Smith. He's like, hey, what about when he's at the Fortress of Solitude and we have a giant spider attack him? And Kevin Smith's like, what? He's like, yeah, Brainiac has made a giant spider and he's using it to attack Superman because I like giant spiders.
Do you know anything about spiders? They're the most dangerous killers in the animal kingdom.
So, Kevin Smith was like, you know what, this movie's probably not going to get made. It's not.
No. He wrote it in as a Thanagarian snare beast.
Yeah.
And so it was in there, and it's like Peter's. Because there's so much about this. This is a horrible tangent, but I need to get this little part out of there.
Yeah.
He also wanted a scene where Superman fights a polar bear.
Yes.
And Peters goes to Kevin Smith and goes, do you know anything about polar bears? Polar bears are the most dangerous killers in the animal kingdom.
So when Kevin,
it's actually the dragonfly, they have like a 95% hunting rate.
Oh yeah.
So when Kevin Smith was watching Wild Wild West on premiere night, he was sitting there watching the movie. He knew everybody who was attached to it. And he's sitting there and goes, huh. He finally got his giant robot spider.
Yeah, he made the. I know that guy made them put that fucking giant
the spider was in there. There it was.
For spectacle, I like that.
Right.
Poor Kenneth Branagh. It's a bad movie, but I enjoy Wild Wild West.
Right.
But
I'm pretty sure Kenneth Branagh enjoyed The Check.
Oh yeah.
In hindsight,
I listened to a podcast where they were talking about like that was on like he did like that was one of his several failures in a row after doing some Shakespeare movies and really
his Hamlet is actually exceptional.
Oh yeah, his Shakespeare stuff is on top.
It kind of made him think like, oh, can I really even do this? Like he had like a crisis of conscience.
Well, yeah, he was in that really good Frankenstein movie with Robert De Niro, right?
That was one of his failures, actually.
Oh, I love that movie.
I haven't watched it, so I don't know, but it was like a financial failure, and a critical failure too. Which
that's not
him
good.
being like a theater actor, really cares about that. Yeah.
But so Wild Wild West, it's a fun movie in hindsight. However, if you put down your hard-earned money to see what you thought was going to be a good movie and had the mindset of that when you went into it.
I was a kid when I watched it, and I was stupid. So
that's a whole different situation if you're a kid when you watch something.
So as you brought it up very briefly, cattle punk, which I think I called cowboy punk.
There's like 15 different names for these things.
Cowboys and aliens.
Yeah.
Cattle punk.
Probably, yeah. It's.
I've never seen it.
I've never seen it, but it could be
Oblivion though. Have you ever seen Oblivion?
Yeah.
It was a full moon movie where they were basically like.
I'm thinking of.
Have you never?
See, I'm thinking of a completely different Oblivion.
Oh yeah, you are.
Yeah,
you are. Oblivion. They were cowboys in space, but they were on an alien planet with fucking robots and aliens dressed up like fucking cowboys. It is a trip.
Cattle punk. There's a lot of like. Anime that falls in like Trigun's Cattle Punk can be argued.
Okay,
I can see that, and also Desert Punk I guess would maybe
Desert Punk there's actually a desert punk subgenre. So
There's also let's just
but like these things. But again, like these things fall into like, it could be argued
multiple subcategories.
The Mad Max movies, those are desert punk, or those are apocalypse, or those are diesel
apocalypse.
punk.
Apocalypse now.
Yeah.
Let's make sure the audience, the half of an audience member knows that Desert Punk is an actual title for an actual anime.
There's an anime.
Yeah.
I watched a few episodes of that and I liked it.
It's all right. It's all right. It's not terrible. But we're not talking about that one.
I wanted to highlight a book that I read that falls under the steampunk genre. It's actually a series, but I just never got around to reading the entire series. But I did read the first book called Bone Shaker by Sherry Priest. It takes place in an alternate Seattle where this guy created this bone shaker driller, is what he called it. And it drilled too deep and it released this gas called the blight, which basically turns people into zombies. So now there's like, you can't like this fog is around Seattle. And it then in like at a future time, the guy who invented it, his wife, like her son goes missing and she has to actually go into Seattle to find him. And she hires this airship pirate guy. It's a really good book. It's a quick read. It's a series. I never got around to reading the series, but like that's something it's a lesser known thing that I would definitely recommend. But it's interesting. I think it's pretty with the aesthetics. It's very steampunk, but it also could fit into like some diesel punk and stuff like that too, I think.
So you've mentioned cities and horror and steampunk. I want to add my 2 cents on that with a video game series that I think is very, very good. I think, and especially at the price that it is, and if you ever get it on sale on Steam, this is a steampunk joke, but if you can get it on the Epic Store for free, because I actually got the first game of it for free as a free download from the Epic Store, but that is Sunless Sea and Sunless Skies.
Oh, okay.
It takes place in a setting called Fallen London, where bats drag London to the underground. Don't ask much more than that, but yeah, you play a Z captain, not a sea captain, but a Z captain, as you're like patrolling the underground sea in a steamboat, pumping out coal, and then it brings in the Cthulhu mythos in there too, which I think the Cthulhu mythos, as far as, in my opinion, as far as where it could really be introduced naturally, because of the time period, I would definitely have to say steampunk and the Cthulhu mythos are like chocolate and peanut butter, just in my regard as far as that goes. But those are two games that if you ever get a chance to play them, Sunless Sea and Sunless Skies.
There's also a really cool comic book. Read the first volume of it, and I don't want to go into the story without giving anything away, but it's called Lady Mechanica.
Oh, wow. I've seen covers of that.
I want to talk about the Gothic influence on steampunk in one very particular area, and that is a female dress. Corsets and long dresses for days. It's not just a Victorian thing. They tend to go a little bit darker. They tend to be a darker hue.
Yeah.
And just for me, like that, to me, that is a Gothic influence, like a properly Gothic influence.
Right. I agree. Yeah. There's also like if I could be a historical nerd here for a second.
Sure.
On the fashion, since you brought up the fashion sense of things. So the Victorian era spans 50 plus years. There's actually, and I cannot remember the dude's name because I've only watched a couple of his videos, because I find different random things that would most people find boring interesting.
Yeah.
And he is a fashion historian. He's a what you would call in England in the late 1800s, early 1900s, a dandy. He makes his own clothes. He sells them. He makes them for other people and makes a really good living off of doing it. But he actually came out with a book. It's a art book that he collabed with someone, and every like 3 to 4, 5 years there was like a slow progression of different Victorian dresses and different dresses, like, men that the tails would go longer or they would go shorter, and the same would be with their top hats and things like that. There's a lot of things that are steampunk that are not Victorian That's actually the Edwardian period when it comes to the look of things, especially things from like the early 10s to 20s and 30s. That's the Edwardian period of fashion and also of history. So a lot of steampunk is like shares Victorian and Edwardian aesthetics. Yeah. So there you go, kids. There's some facts for you.
I would like to argue that the line that draws over all of that is that if you are writing in the era and not the punk side of things, if you're writing in the Victorian era, fashion is meant to be seen. Also, I would say in the Edwardian era, whereas in steampunk, fashion is practicable. I can't think of practical. Jesus Christ, Jay. In the fact that like those goggles. In the cosplay, that character that is being embodied by the person wearing that would be using those goggles for practical work.
Yeah,
like they would be like they'd be looking for like energy in the sky, or they would be looking for the proper amount of coal, or like the proper substance. Those goggles are doing something technologically that we can do there. I cannot remember the name of the YouTuber that was researching this. In fact, you'll probably future Jay and keep this part in too. Look up this guy's name and make sure that he's in the credits for the show as far as your research goes, because I forgot this guy's name, but he had one of the best primers and it was like 10 minutes, and it was a absolutely amazing
primer for steampunk.
Okay.
And KW Jeter is one of the fathers of steampunk authorship. He wrote the novel Infernal Machines, not Mortal Engines, but Infernal Machines. And in a letter in 1987, it's the first time that the word steampunk is ever known to be used.
Oh, okay.
And he said that this genre is going to be taking off in a few years. Now, he was off, I would say, about 10, 15 years. I think it was closer to the end of the millennium, start of the new millennium.
Yeah, I would have to say so.
But one thing that the YouTuber mentioned, I think he hits it great home. Gentlemen, we have these things. I'm holding up my smartphone right now. If you were someone in the 1980s right now, and it's like, can that person pick out the iPhone, the LG phone, and the Samsung phone? I would say no, because all of these are rectangles. They're just very nondescript. They're very minimalist. There's not a whole lot of doodad to that. The screen is where it is, but even then, like if you're looking at the screen and you don't know what you're looking at a bunch of squares on the screen. Steampunk, everything has detail, everything, and it has practical detail. Like it doesn't have gears on it for what it is embodied, just to have a gear on it. That gear is practical and does something on the thing. Whether it's a steam gun or it's some sort of device that allows you to fly through the sky, everything is very practical, and it has a practical application to it, and it is a very detailed application. Whereas now we live in a future where technology looks almost the same throughout. Like it's a true expression of a monoculture where everything is the exact same goddamn thing.
Yeah.
I
think that's something that, now that you mentioned that like one of the big things about, and we're not going to get in, we've already talked about cyberpunk for forever, but like that's one of cyberpunk kind of, everything is kind of, very detailed as
functional,
well, and not as sleek as most futuristic things are. But speaking of cyberpunk, I kind of wanted to mention almost a subgenre specifically of cyberpunk, and that's biopunk, which is, it uses a lot of the cyberpunk aesthetics, except that instead of cybernetics and like the net and like all of these things,
bioengineering.
It's about bioengineering and genetic manipulation. Some of the things that was brought up about this one was, Jurassic Park, the Island of Dr. Moreau. I saw argued. So that's like an interesting thing. Is taking a lot of the stuff from cyberpunk and then going in a different direction. Thinking of a different technology.
I wouldn't give you Jurassic Park, because to me, it still goes back to the punk. It still goes back to the rebellion and things like that. I would say for me, and you might disagree, that this one might be just pure cyberpunk, but if we're going to go biopunk, let's talk about Akira briefly. and what the government was doing to these kids and like trying to alter them and like basically bioengineer these kids, and then like
there's a little bit of biopunk in definitely.
I would say there's biopunk. I think in Akira there's bio and cyberpunk.
These can they share these can be multiple things.
Then this opens up a new question. Like all squares are rhombuses, but not all rhombuses are squares. Not all cyberpunk is biopunk, but is all biopunk cyberpunk?
I think it can be argued because most of the time when I was reading about biopunk, it was talking about this is specifically a subgenre of cyberpunk.
Yeah. That makes sense.
I think a lot of arguments you might have in this is like, for instance, when looking this up, okay, so we have steampunk, but then we also have clockpunk.
Yeah, I was going to
And so you have clockpunk. Is that just steampunk but with clocks?
Basically, I saw it as steampunk without the steam. Oftentimes, it's set in like a Renaissance era.
That's very true. Yeah, it's a different time frame, so maybe it's there, and I think it's very more Da Vinci. So like,
more
Assassin's
mechanical.
Creed 2 was one brought
that's a good one.
Is that, and I was like, yeah, that fits.
Another one that I saw, Tesla punk.
Yeah,
which is electricity instead of steam, but it's still like, what are you using to generate the stuff? Does it escape the bounds of steampunk, or is it just a part of
one
steampunk?
That I saw was like that? That's like a subgenre. Like these subgenres have subgenres.
They're connected, in some way.
Like when they were, I can't remember all of them, but like it's kind of a subsection of cyberpunk was nanopunk, where everything is nano machines.
So if we want to consider that a separate thing, I would say Deus Ex, the video game Deus Ex, like because it's about nanotechnology and augmented.
The Crisis video games was ones that was
another
one that I
that's another one
saw.
there too. You could also say that Deus Ex is biopunk because we're also bioengineering these people in order to be make what we need them.
I also saw that when we were thinking Oblivion, the Tom Cruise Oblivion was nanopunk, but I've never watched Oblivion, so I don't know exactly the ins and outs of the technology.
You mentioned Mortal Engines. It's a guilty pleasure. I like that movie. I know it's terrible in a lot of ways. It's got some plot problems.
It has Hugo Weaving.
It does
give it a pass.
It does have Hugo Weaving in it, but the way those moving cities work, it's like diesel and steampunk.
I saw it on two different websites. One listed it as steampunk, one listed it as diesel punk.
Well, they have steam dirigibles, but they also have like diesel powered cities, and things of that nature. So they kind of like blend it. So those both of those subgenres work within that movie that has some problems.
Another interesting one that I kind of want to talk about is Atom Punk, which is like the 1950s. It crosses a lot of things with kind of deco punk and diesel punk, but it's more about that 50s aesthetic with also this is also like a time period, but this one's also the aesthetic of like the nuclear age,
genetic mutations and things of that nature,
like the Fallout games they brought up.
Would you also add in like the early years of the Cold War?
Yeah, definitely with that,
because that's where the threat of nuclear annihilation was at its worst.
An interesting one that they brought up, like one is obviously like the Jetsons falls into that, but the one that they argue, that I saw argue, which I think is you can make a good argument with, is like Futurama, because it has a lot of those 50s aesthetics with like the coloring and the design of a lot of things.
Post-futurism influenced.
Yeah. Well, again, like I think throughout all of these, with the exception of maybe the one that for me had the most effect on me, and I'll get into that here in a little second. There's this notion of futurism in the science, especially in the science fiction genre there. But when we're talking about the fantastical, first of all, there was one that I found that I don't really know if I can support this as a style of punk, but elf punk.
I saw this, yeah.
And elf punk, it really should be more along like maybe called fae punk when we're talking about the fairy and the mystical, like elves, dwarves. But it's not that it's fantasy. It's they are integrated and live within our modern society. So it's not so much that it's not futurism, but it's more like the mystical past being brought into the present, and for them it's their future.
Yeah.
Things that Once Upon a Time, which was actually a tremendous television show on ABC.
I never finished the first season.
If you have any access to it,
I like the conceit of the show. Like that's one of my favorite tropes, but like I never could finish it.
I think one thing that one movie specifically that merges some of these different punks is Wizards.
Okay.
Oh, okay. So we're going Bakshi on this.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Wizards has Fey punk. It feels like, in a lot of ways.
You have Fey punk, you have the notion of diesel punk. Like you literally
There's also another one, what they called ether punk or magic punk.
I think I also saw the words aura punk linked to those
punk,
two.
Yeah. Sometimes the same thing will have like
aura
multiple.
punk was like where atom punk it's like to the atomic age. Aura punk is like the things that power us are basically like energy imbued crystals and things like that, and like the notions of what would build off from that.
Yeah.
There's also a lot of Indo-futurism, I guess is the better way to put about it, like where there's a lot of like structure, like literally physical structure out of like what you would see built in India, Indian things like that. Which, if we're going to go east, let's go a little further east. Let me get this one out. Real quick.
Sure, go ahead.
Silk punk.
Yeah, I saw
which
this,
which is the Far East, China, Japan, Korea.
Mm-hmm.
I think of like as far as that one's a hard one for me because as far as how is futurism going, and then like I saw it explained, it's like, well, you have the gliders of like ninja gliders and things like paper gliders that could not glide as far as they have this like supernatural effect that could also be just technology just taken to a fantastical level. So we have stuff like that.
I wanted to before we moved so far away from Wizards, I wanted to mention one thing.
We did. My bad, man.
It's all good. The one thing that makes Wizards interesting in this discussion about these different punk genres is that
big old titties.
That's elf titty with nipples. It's G-rated for your pleasure. So you have these different punk aesthetics that are fighting each other. It's almost like the plot of magic punk versus diesel punk. It's like machine versus magic, and it's punk as fuck. One thing I wanted to mention was Nazca, Valley of the Wind.
Yeah, okay. That I think falls into one of these subgenres that was very interesting to me. But now that you mention it, it definitely falls into it. I think most Miyazaki movies do, but eco punk or solar punk is what
solar punk.
two different versions of it, which seems like that's one that probably after this I'm gonna start trying to explore more because I didn't find, because most of the things that was brought up as examples I didn't even write any down because I wasn't familiar with them, and I don't think anybody else would have been familiar with them. So that's one that's like super interesting. But
right.
I think Nazca falls into that pretty solidly.
The solar side of things.
Yeah.
To me, with so many genres, I think it becomes very easy to put things that I wouldn't necessarily call punk, if we are focusing solely on the time frame. Like I'll bring Once Upon a Time back into it again. The punk aesthetic to me is not as big there. There's a lot of there's almost like criminal procedural in that. To me, that is less punk than anything else. I think there is that notion that you are fighting against some sort of oppression. When I brought up Batman, the animated series, as Deco punk, the oppression that he's fighting is this crime that never stops, even though he's doing everything he can to do it. It's not necessarily something that can be personified. Sometimes it is literally the concept itself that they're having to continue to fight against.
Let me ask you this. So would the Fables comic book series be elf punk to you?
Ooh, that's a very good question. I have not read enough of it. To me, what I've read, no, but there's not I have to preface that with I have not read enough to give a definitive answer on that. From first impression, no. But as it goes along, and if I had a deeper dive into it, because I don't feel qualified to give a review, I can only give a first impression.
And I think, and I might be repeating myself, because we have kind of we've jumped around a lot, but
there's a lot of lily pads.
I think when it comes to like, is this kind of punk or that kind of punk, or is this kind of punk or not? I think sometimes some things can be more aesthetically on the aesthetic side of the punk and not on the thematic side.
I would have to agree with that. And
punk.
what subgenre really fits in that is splatter.
Oh yeah,
Splatter punk.
Mm-hmm. This is one that I didn't really do much research on.
I have no idea what would be considered splatter punk, to be honest with you.
Okay, so we're just going to leave it. Passengers, what is splatter punk? We mentioned it.
Kevin, 5 episodes from now, let us know what splatter punk is.
Legitimately, though, our horror inclined passengers, give your opinions, but give them to Fearology.
I think one thing that comes to mind is and it kind of cuts into the Cthulhu mythos as well, though, but is Dead Space's splatter punk. Is it?
See, you've picked something I like very much.
Mm-hmm.
I think of especially with the remake. With the remake, I think there's a bit more punk to it because he has this very hard bent against the corporation that he's working for. And in the remake, he actually has a voice where he was quiet in the first one. So he's a blank slate in the first game. So it's easier to put yourself as Isaac in that one. The later games gave him a voice, which I think was actually, for what they were doing, I think it was absolutely necessary.
Right.
And in the remake, they give him a voice there. And he has these expressions of like wanting to rebel against this. I think of that as just a hard horror science fiction. I think of that like Alien.
Yeah.
And it's going to be Alien. It starts out Alien and then kind of drifts into Aliens and then back into Alien again.
What about The Thing? John Carpenter's The Thing. Would that be considered splatter punk? I know there's an alien involved, but there's also an ongoing enemy situation.
There's two enemies in there's two enemies in The Thing. The first one is The Thing itself, but then the second one is the fact they're in the fucking Antarctic.
Right.
I can't in good because to me it's not a rebellion, it's a fight for survival. Like it's not punk the way I think of punk.
So
I'm gonna cheat. Oh, go ahead.
I
Brady.
think something that we've kind of been missing, and because I was kind of looking up while everybody was talking, because again, splatter punk is not something that I really looked into, but it is definitely a genre. There's like a lot of books and stuff of this. I think a word that we have been missing, that I'm glad that I looked this up, is the word counterculture. That's a big part of, is this a punk thing, or is it, or is it ex-punk, or is it not?
Punk is assertively counterculture.
That's a big thing, because that's what they were talking about, where when it comes to splatter punk, it's all about like over the top violence with this counterculture bent.
Hyper intensive horror.
Yeah,
with no limits.
Ichi the Killer, would that be splatter punk?
I think
probably Poppy Z. Bright is listed in here, as well as some other genre writers as well.
Yeah, I think it could be argued some of those like gore Japanese movies could
Tokyo Gore Police. That's splatter punk.
Like Machine Girl and Robo Geisha and Zombie Ass, those are more silly. Tokyo Gore Police actually goes really serious with it.
Yeah, I think Tokyo Gore Police is probably a splatter punk at its finest.
Yeah, okay. I think
splatter punk mostly, from what my research denoted, was mostly through literary work.
Yeah,
it's a big, because there's even like awards for like splatter punk books.
Yeah. So I want to talk about what was for me the most influential, and I really didn't think about this until I started like looking at the various genres. And what was amazing about it to me is this describes itself as this. And I just kind of passed it over, like reading about it, and then just kind of I came to this realization looking into this topic, and that's Gothic punk.
Oh yeah,
and it starts in for me it started later, but for everyone, to me, like one of the pole star considerations for this, 1993, Mark Rein-Hagen and White Wolf Studios publishes the very first edition of Vampire the Masquerade, and then you get Werewolf, the Apocalypse, and Mage the Ascension. Gothic punk.
Yep.
And they stress that in the book itself. There are two motifs: the Gothic, the looming towers, the shadows that fall over everything, like all these things. That's the visual, and then the spirit of it is punk. It's this fighting, like it's being against it. It's about fighting against. It's about being the counterculture, like you said. It is Gothic punk. That era, like where it was the most popular, where you go from the early '90s to I think the very end of the 2000s. You have, at least for me, 3 of the most compelling pieces of art that were made that were Gothic punk. You have Vampire the Masquerade and the World of Darkness in a whole, but you have The Crow.
Yep.
Oh yeah, 100%.
And then at the very end, you have Dark City.
Yeah.
Yeah. And earlier, not as impactful, but there is this movie that David Bowie was in 1981 called The Hunger, and it's extremely Gothic punk. I would say Lost Boys in a lot of ways, but maybe not so much like as a whole.
That's
If that's Gothic
that's touching
punk,
it.
the capital letter is on P and not so much on
Right.
the G.
Yeah, there's a lot of punk in that for sure.
There's also now that I'm thinking about it, there's a comic book called Grendel.
Oh yeah.
I need to tell this story real quick.
Go ahead.
So I went to Ole Miss in 1990. This is not my story. This is a story from about a year or two later. And Kiefer Sutherland was in Mississippi filming in a movie. For some reason, I want to think it's A Time to Kill, but I'm not 100% sure about that. There was a long-standing LARP that was running out of Oxford and the city of Memphis. Kiefer Sutherland heard about it and he actually requested to come to Oxford to play his character from the Lost Boys in that LARP. I was
cool.
I was a year or two away from that.
Oh my god.
Oh my god! And just like that's just an anecdotal story on that one.
Jesus.
But I wanted to touch on that one because I think that is just super cool. Kiefer Sutherland to me is an unsung hero of nerds.
Oh yeah.
Just
That's
in
cool.
general.
That's
And one
rad.
of the reasons why he's on my mind is he plays Snake in Metal Gear Solid 5, so that's the reason why I was kind of floating in my brain.
Would Blade be considered?
The movies, yes.
Yeah.
The character in the comics, less
Not so much, yeah.
Like he's more
Maybe later on, early definitely.
Well,
not,
the movies
the
influence
movies,
where Blade went.
Yeah,
with that.
the movie. Yeah, because after the movies,
The
he
Punisher
started
comic book series. Splatter?
I think of that as just like high violence crime noir.
yeah,
Yeah, you're right.
yeah,
You're right.
That leans into noir.
Yeah, you're right. Grendel, though. I remember Grendel.
Yeah, I've read a couple of issues. I haven't really read a whole lot.
I
but
read a
just
couple of
like,
graphic
like
novels on Grendel
The
back in the
aesthetic
day.
of it is very of that Gothic punk. But yeah, like something like The Crow, the first one at the very least.
They did a Grendel and Batman combo.
I think like I said, I've only read a couple of issues of Grendel, but I liked what I read.
Yeah, he was an assassin.
Yeah, there's actually like goes through like basically each of them like die horribly and another one.
Yeah, Grendel's more of a title than it is an actual one character.
It's almost like the Phantom where one dies and just takes
it's
over.
Like Ronin Samurai. It's not like that's just the name of the title. Basically, it's not the actual name of the person portraying Grendel.
Oh, a fun one is Stone Punk, which is basically like the Flintstones.
Oh,
Yeah. It's like using prehistoric things
okay.
and like super technology for the time.
Okay.
That's more of an aesthetic one than an actual.
Like, no, I could think of maybe something like, to me, like if you want to talk about being a part of the culture instead of the counterculture, the Flintstones are the culture.
Yeah.
It's just like but
That one's more of an aesthetic.
you gotta have somebody sell your Winston cigarettes.
Yeah.
What was the movie that Mel Gibson directed about the Mayan
Apocalypto.
That I might say might be stone punk.
That's good. That's on the verge of that.
I believe it. I believe it.
Yeah.
Because there's a sense of like he's apart from this culture and he's having to fucking deal
Clan
with
of
this
the Cave Bear.
That's one that they brought up was Stone Punk.
Yeah. Quest for fire.
Yeah.
Yep.
Fire is a technology for people who don't know.
Because Aegon is one of our favorite role-playing games. I want to bring up Sandalpunk.
Oh yeah.
Oh.
Which is the Mediterranean and the Middle East.
Yeah. There's also Bronze Punk with this, which is they're very similar.
Yeah. I think Bronze is to me, bronze is more the aesthetic, whereas Sandalpunk is more the setting.
Is Sandalpunk in the Harryhausen house of things, or like what is it exactly? Like, is there any titles that you could think of that would deem it Sandalpunk?
I saw some things where like the God of War series is
yes,
in that
seems legit.
Specifically God of War in my brain, because
the first one especially, yeah.
Clash of the Titans. No.
Clash of the Titans.
Clash of the Titans is more, to me, is more a tale of mythology.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Hero's journey kind of thing.
Though I will say, I will always and forever, if we're going to mention, we have to mention Bubo.
Bubo, the clockwork owl.
Like there's a little bit of that too, but like to me, again, he's not working against the culture. The oppression he's fighting is the oppression of the gods, but he's working for the culture by trying to save.
And he's not steampunky. He's magical.
It's Andromeda, right?
Whereas I can't remember.
I don't remember.
Whereas in like God of War, he is literally like rebelling against the gods.
Right.
He's trying to defeat. The
Right.
gods.
That makes more. Xena Warrior Princess.
I think that
Sandalpunk.
that could possibly be because there are like weird technologies.
Because there's weird technology. She's typically like coming in as a virtuous outsider. Same thing with Hercules. You can make also Hercules Legendary Journeys, which I have more fond memories of those than I feel I should have. I don't know why, because back then, these are fucking goofy as shit, and now I just remember them fondly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's
I really dug Xena Warrior Princess.
Nostalgia.
Xena got more in like Hercules usually was just like, I'm big and strong, I'm gonna lift things, and I have a courageous heart, and like that's good there. But
Xena's probably I would
deeper on shit.
I would go onto a limb that Xena is more watchable nowadays than
Hercules.
Also because Kevin Sorbo's a dick.
I wasn't going to bring up Kevin Sorbo, but now that you have, I have to co-sign on that.
Yes. Yeah. Let me see. Yeah, but Sandalpunk and to a lesser extent Bronze Punk are some interesting ones. I like Bronze Punk. One of the things was the Gods of Egypt movie, that shitty movie.
Ooh.
Yeah. See, that to me is more like a very faint sci-fi skin put on a fantasy genre movie.
What would we do? Because I think it fits into one of these punk genres. Stargate, the movie, the original movie. I think it fits into one of those because there is like some.
The first thing that would cry would be Sandal Punk, but I think that's just more reacting to the
Sandal Punk, Desert Punk,
Stone Punk in a way. Also, like there's not a lot of. I mean, there's alien technology, but
again, to me, it's the Jurassic Park. It's the reason why I argue against Jurassic Park not being biopunk,
right?
Because if it was something more akin to like Akira, where like
I think something like Jurassic Park is more like aesthetically biopunk than it is like thematically biopunk. So
so I can't I couldn't co-sign on Stargate on that. I think it's an exceptional science fiction movie.
I was
for what it does.
thinking about. It's been a very long time since I watched it, but thinking about some of like the themes of it, felt like it might fit. But I mean, I don't.
These are all like semantics.
These are like
basically.
super semantic.
Tank Girl's like desert punk, right?
Yeah, I've also saw there's like a thing called Now Punk where it's more like modern day stuff. I saw Tank Girl fit in that, but again, I haven't watched Tank Girl, so I've just seen bits and pieces.
Oh my god, Tank Girl's one of my favorite movies of all time.
Yeah, Ice-T's like a rabbit thing, isn't he?
They're kangaroos.
Kangaroo people.
They're genetically modified biopunk. They're genetically modified rabbit people. And Laura Petty plays.
Yeah, Lori Petty, like that to me is the more important part. They're not kangaroo iced tea. God damn it!
I mean, that's the most outrageous part.
Look, Malcolm McDowell was in this movie. Come on, man.
Malcolm
McDowell was in a lot of movies,
and he's the head of an evil corporation trying to sell water because water is a resource.
Definitely, Tank Girl fits into the
punk genre.
Yeah, it's just to me it fits in too many so that I can't put it in one. Like it's like in my brain.
Desert Diesel punk.
Now punk. Like there's even like I didn't read too much about it, but there's like a post cyberpunk where it's like but I didn't. But I don't want to go into too much because I didn't do too much research.
Well, I mean,
this is something like
your brain would fry.
I wish I kind of put this off for various reasons, and I wish that I wouldn't have because this is actually a very interesting thing. Seeing all of these,
we've all been excitable about what we've been talking
and
about.
And also, one thing about this is a good jump off episode. Like if like again, passengers, hello. If we start getting feedback of stuff of like what are people's, in fact, I'll just ask it just bluntly right here. What is your favorite blank punk genre? Is it cyberpunk, which again we've already done an episode on, but do you have other favorites? And would you like to hear us talk about that more and like do our research and do some deep dives? Maybe read some books, maybe play some video games, maybe watch some media, television.
Yeah, would you like us to talk about Sky Captain in the World of Tomorrow?
And it's diesel punkness.
Yes.
Which I think is like 80% diesel punk and like 20% deco punk because when
there is a lot of deco.
Yeah.
There's actually a board game that I think you could argue is, I would say mostly diesel punk, but also a little bit of Tesla punk, and that's Scythe.
Is it our second number 2 board game
diesel
of all time?
punk.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. You know what? And the thing is,
it's a little Tesla punk because literally like the mechs in there were created by Tesla.
Yeah.
But there's not like the aesthetic of the Tesla.
To me, that's
what do
more.
they call them? The Tesla towers, the Tesla
coils.
Coils. Yeah.
Yeah.
I couldn't think of
That's more set dressing than it is, or that's the paint on the house and not what we built it with. I think it, and
that has to do with it's a board game,
and
but also there's a campaign that gets into these things.
For me, I've always called it steampunk. But no, really, like after looking at this, no, it should be.
Yeah, a lot of times we will call things steampunk,
Yeah.
but it's really when you look at like what's actually powering them,
Right.
it's diesel. Basically, with diesel and steampunk, like they have very similar. There's airships, but are these things running off of oil, or are they running off of like steam?
And that was actually one of the things that I'm glad we went there because I was actually thinking about depending on the property. Mechs can be either cyberpunk or diesel punk. If it's like BattleTech, kind of diesel punk, right? Robotech, well, not Robotech, but Macross, more along the cyberpunk kind of aesthetics, you know. Gundam also. Gundam, I meant Gundam as well as Macross.
No. I didn't mean that to discredit Macross.
No.
I'm just like saying I'd like if we can add those
Gundam, Tekka Man.
Yeah, Mech Warrior seems like they're there to fight a war and do a job.
Yeah, Mech Warrior is very diesel.
Yeah, it's very like grimy.
Whereas Gundam is there to fight a war and look good doing it.
Right.
It's sleekness with that.
Right.
This has been fun.
It has.
This has been
we have been
gung ho.
We've been like trotting the globe. We've been going across time. We've been going everywhere. Like
we went through a lot of IPs in a very short period of time.
Absolutely. I think for me, I'll end it on this. I think for it to be blank punk, the punk part of it has to be there. There has to be some sort of fight against oppression, against whether it's personified or not. It has to be that. Otherwise, then I think it's just a set dressing on a science fiction or fantasy genre. I think that where it really comes out is when you have people that are fighting to reveal something. I will go back to steampunk and the end of this, and I think it's very important in the steampunk genre because taking place in one of the most exploitative times in human history, it's almost like we are fighting that. We are fighting to be free. We're fighting to do these things that in this society we shouldn't be doing, or that people shouldn't be doing. We're looking to break away from that. Brady.
Yeah. I like I said before, I feel like it's there's like two sides to it. There's an aesthetic side and there's a thematic side, because, you can walk by, you go to a convention and there's going to be a booth selling steampunk shit where they just put gears and goggles and corsets on everything. And that's fine. But if you go up to them and ask them what with this top hat with goggles on it, what oppression is this fighting or something like that? Like they're gonna be like, what the fuck are you talking about? But that's still steampunk because it's got that aesthetic. You can go a lot of ways with this. I really enjoyed this. I really wish I'm probably going to take a little bit of time to do a deep dive into something like I said with eco punk / solar punk. I wanna like actually maybe read some stuff about some books that are in this kind of genre.
Yeah.
And with that comes like and some of these, like I think eco punk a lot of time will cross over a lot with Afrofuturism and stuff like that, because you'll see that there's a melding usually with those with the land and technology and stuff like that.
We didn't touch on that. Is it just Afrofuturism, or is there an Afropunk?
I was looking for that.
Probably.
I didn't really see that talked about too much. Maybe they mentioned it a little here and there as possible genre, because they would be like, okay, these are the genres, but then here's some possible things where they get like super granular. But I think that you could argue that there is like an Afro punk in there where
more
it
than likely,
where it takes more from this side.
Specifically, silk punk exists.
Yeah.
So like the Asian countries are represented in that. You have Mediterranean punk, which brings in the Middle East and brings in the Adriatic Sea and stuff like that. To me that's fascinating that we can't encapsulate, or not that we can't encapsulate that. That's a gross. I apologize, but that we didn't encapsulate.
Well,
in this,
there's also
I was not sure about that, and I didn't necessarily like. I could talk about it. Like I love Afrofuturism and stuff like that.
There's also industrial punk we didn't touch on.
Yeah,
like Tetsuo the Iron Man is industrial punk.
Yeah, I would. Yeah, that's a good way to describe that one.
I heard. I also saw the mention of steel punk.
Yeah,
which does that fall in there?
I think that's probably Tetsuo the Iron Man falls into that category.
I think steel punk has a lot to do with hardware. I read a little bit about that. There was there's like so many little sub genres and
there's
stuff
a lot
like that.
Like, we were ending this, and then all of a sudden another box opened up. And we were like, "Oh my god!"
I got one more thing to talk about.
Fire away, brother.
Well, two things. One blurb. Fern Gully is eco and solar and fairy punk.
I think so. Yeah.
But
with that,
there was and still is, depending on if the artists are still going on. Between 2008 till now, there's been a movement of steampunk music. One of the most famous bands is out of San Diego, Steam Powered Giraffe.
Yeah,
which they tend to be more on, depending on the song's comical side, but sometimes a little bit more serious. And then more on the goofier side is Professor Elemental and Cog something or another. I can't remember the name of that band, but there's actually several steampunk bands. But Steam Powered Giraffe will be the only one I recommend.
We're going to rename that band because of this to Cog something or whatever.
Something or whatever.
With that, there we go.
So yeah, there's a lot of ways you can go with this.
Yeah,
and it's an interesting like rabbit hole to go down.
Oh yeah, I mean we could probably have another fucking episode about it. Really.
Yeah, I think this is interesting when thinking about like different ways that people look at making art,
defining
these.
Yeah.
As long as you don't fall into, because this is you can do this the same way that fucking people who listen to heavy metal do, where it's like, oh no, it's not this thing, it's this thing, and don't get
we need a flow chart.
Yeah, don't get really don't get hung up on, oh, is this type of metal, or is this that type of metal, or is this type of punk, or is this that type of punk. It's more about like, okay, where can you go with this? Like where can we take this, and what stories can we write using these aesthetics? I think that's the better way to go.
Forget
with
about
this.
Like episode or episodes. This could be a podcast series discussing these.
Oh yeah, we could take
definitely
each one of these and do super deep dives into all of them.
So I guess for now, like again, we put it to the passengers. What do you think these genres need to be blank punk? What are the hallmarks of it? What are some of your favorites? What are some of those that you would like us to dig into in the future? We would love to hear from you, whether it's today or tomorrow or 10 years down the line, if we're still doing this 10 years down the line. So, with that said, gentlemen, the bus is rolling into the station.
Finally.
Whew. As always, we're going to give some thank yous to some very wonderful friends. I'll start it off with Whiskey and Wrestling, because, God, those boys are suffering right now. Oh, my God. The in-ring product from the top tier in wrestling right now, I will say, is fantastic. Tonight, we watched Darby Allin and Sammy Guevara put on a pay-per-view quality.
It was a really good match.
With maybe the exception of the end, though I did like the ending, and we'll let people go and watch that for themselves. The in-ring quality that had was amazing. I just do not like the booking decisions where things are being booked and how people are being booked.
A lot of the storylines are very frustrating,
And
which
that's-
is the problem that AEW's had.
And that's the way. And I would also say,
Orange
and the
Cassidy
WWE
and Bandito were that was a phenomenal match.
exceptional. Absolutely exceptional. But if you want to see reviews of modern day wrestling and hopefully soon far past days wrestling, also along with what imbibables you should be imbibing while you're watching wrestling, by all means check out Whiskey and Wrestling. Michael Hill, Jason Holder, available on all major podcasting platforms.
And on the stream corner, a friend of ours just started streaming not too long ago. April.
April Duggan.
April Duggan. Her Twitch is Ape's Place.
Ape's Place.
She's been streaming Visage, which is a horror mystery game.
They've been focusing horror mostly. It's Visage, Dead by Daylight. They've also been doing, and it's not Phasmophobia. It's the one where they're searching demons, and I can't remember the name. Demonology.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was her first subscriber.
Oh, nice.
She just made partner. I was her first subscriber.
Well, she just made affiliate.
Right. No, she just made affiliate, and I was her first subscriber.
Right.
Yeah.
You said partner.
Oh yeah,
that's
no.
yeah.
What I was saying,
Right,
her
right.
partner,
Right.
God Emperor of Gaming and Backyard Gaming, Cameron Spanier, was her second.
Oh yeah.
You slacking, boy.
Yeah.
You slacking anyway.
Also streaming Kevin Gallo, aka Ronan Rooster.
Somebody else
also
did the Kevin Gallo promo.
I like how he did that. No, I'm 10 out of 10 on that one.
Also streaming mostly the Pokédex unofficial Pokemon RPG.
They did a Poke Roll last night, and again, they're also doing
Poke Roll.
Cyberpunk Red. They alternate that every other week.
Right.
Through the emotes on their channel, if you get enough channel points, you can actually introduce things into the game, like allowing people to re-roll dice if they failed. You can add minions. I added a minion last night. Jarrett's running the Pokeroll game, and I told him to add a friendly Doug trio that can talk like the Meowth from the series, and he did a fantastic job.
Nice.
Jesus.
His name was Jesus. I have to go back in and say that Doug trio's name is Jesus.
Speaking of Jared Hubbard and Kevin Shelton, if you like listening to people talk about movies, probably on a more recent bent, but also, whatever they feel like talking about, listen to the Silence Your Cell Phone podcast. They do YouTube stuff and other places that podcasts can be listened to.
Excellent stuff.
Yeah.
Also, Fearology. That's a show.
We did mention it 50 times in the last one.
We did. I'm just going to mention it once this time.
We loaded up. We front loaded plugs in the last episode so that we don't have to do as many plugs later.
That's true.
I'm gonna do one more for it just now. Let's see if you like this one.
Okay.
Fearology, the personal history of horror of one J.L. Kite through many eras and ages, print, screen, and otherwise. You like that?
That's pretty good.
You could do an episode on Spider-Punk.
I could. And
you probably
maybe
have to read a lot of books though. So.
I think I'm venturing towards making episode on cannibalism in cinema.
I drive you home at night, so I'm very worried that you're thinking about cannibalism. I'm gonna put that out there right now. I'm a fat man.
Most of those movies are not good.
I can feed
they're
50
not.
people.
They're not. It's mainly just because Jello Jackets is so good.
Yeah,
but
you can skip the Green Inferno. It's not that good.
I've seen the Green Inferno.
Is that the Eli Roth
Yeah,
one?
It's Eli Roth's love letter to cannibal holocaust.
Mm-hmm. Bone Tomahawk is good.
I don't think I've seen that one.
It's like a Western horror with some cannibalism.
Western horror. That's something I'll need to touch on at some point. That's a good.
Yeah, there's not a lot of those.
There's not. It's
Cowboys and aliens.
It's no. It's Dracula versus Billy the Kid is a movie, and I'm not going to cover that.
Blood Rain 3.
Oh,
Blood Rain has one of the most uncomfortable sex scenes I have ever watched. It has nothing to do with the R word or the SA word.
Yeah.
It's just that nothing will ever turn me off worse than two people, one of them saying, my mother my mother was raped by the man who's my father, and now I'm a damn fear. Well, my parents were both eaten by vampires. prison sex. What?
Oh my God.
Yeah, that's what you get when you let Uwe Boll.
Uwe Boll.
That's
He's gonna come. He's gonna come.
That's what tax
come-
breaks get you,
he's gonna come- he's
baby.
gonna-
You get a
he's gonna
bunch of
come and-
shitty movies.
He's gonna come and beat us up.
No,
Probably.
He's not.
He
He can't even beat up Screech
What?
or whoever the fuck it was. He was in a celebrity boxing match. Don't you know that?
Oh yeah, you're thinking of because like all of these reviewer guys like shit on him, and then these guys who like don't do any like cardio or any kind of training or anything like that, and he actually like trains in boxing, so he like beat the shit out of them. But then other people like he got the shit beat out of him. So
The completed podcast of Team Metamorph, Chris Vega, pro player Brandon Scott Tanner, and the rest of the Team Metamorph crew talk about road stories, magic tactics, magic history, and a bunch of other stuff in there. That is the complete podcast, I believe, on all major podcast
Magic
networks.
the Gathering specifically.
Yes.
Magic the Gathering.
Not Magic, the prestidigitation.
No,
maybe
no,
if they're
fuck.
lucky, they'll get visited by Pinkerton agents.
Oh no, I just sent them the Pinkerton agents. Oh, they're back! No.
That'd be an interesting episode for them.
Yeah, that'd be an interesting episode for us. The Pinkertons came. It's
Yeah.
like, hello, Pinkertons, how are you?
Yeah.
I'm doing fine. Oh, it's a hello, Pinkerton agent.
Oh, is that what the Pinkertons sound like?
Yeah, they sound like this. They're all very monotone.
That's all Hasbro can afford.
Yeah. Cameron Spanner, sole owner and God Emperor of Gaming
Yeah.
at MacNarb Gaming in Goshen, Mississippi. Brady bought the wonderful OCR Bone Reapers book tonight.
Yeah, I finally came in.
Yes,
Nice.
and he also got a model, but the model's there. But another buddy of ours who plays OCR Bone Reapers may be getting that instead, so it's very nice. Every Thursday we're trying to get some Age of Sigmar going. Stop by on Thursday. Stop by any night of the week, and you'll have some gaming going.
Next episode on Travelers on the Omnibus, we'll be having the Master Mixtape Masters. And I'm going to
Can we just call that master tape?
We can.
Okay, because that was like 80 words where one could have sufficed.
I think it was 3, but okay.
I kind of like the overdoing it. But,
yeah,
three words.
Master tape sounds like masturbate, so that's funny too.
All right, so I'm going to submit 3 albums that we all have to listen to, including Ethan, who is not here.
Yeah, Mr. Bungle, Mr. Bungle, Mr.
No.
Bungle. I know what you're trying.
I will,
I know what you're
I will
No.
quit this fucking show.
No.
We now know his breaking point. It's Mr. Bungle times 3.
I am not listening to 3 Mr. Bungle albums. I am sorry.
I'm not listening to the 3 Mr. Bungle albums.
Shinedown covers Mr. Bungle.
Oh God,
So
that's my hell.
When the crow meets my ass on fire.
Ethan's gonna hate it no matter what, I think. So
That might actually get him to hate Shinedown.
Oh wow,
That would. If any of my favorite bands covered Mr. Bungle, that would make me hate them.
So our albums are
Oh, here we go. Shit. Okay. Write this down. I'll just record it.
the Pixies, Doolittle,
Okay,
The Pixies do little.
that's one I've been wanting to actually listen to.
awesome. The Dresden Dolls, Yes Virginia,
Dresden Dolls. Yes, Virginia.
I don't know why I'm writing this down because I'm not keeping up with this.
Yeah.
and the third album is Soul Asylum, Grave Dancers Union.
Soul Asylum, Grave Dancer. Is that Runaway? Is that the one Runaway Train?
That's the one where Runaway Train, Black Gold.
Yeah, that's another good one.
There was actually a Soul Asylum record store day. I think it was their complete unplugged.
Oh, okay.
I think Holder got that one.
Soul Asylum. We'll talk about them when we talk about them.
Absolutely, yes. Save it for the next episode.
save it for the next episode.
Alrighty,
Okay.
so ladies and gentlemen, we have been Travelers on the Omnibus. Thank you for stopping by with us once more around the room. My name is James McCarthy.
I'm Brady Davis.
I'm Jody Kite. Be more nerd, but not in Ethan's character from that one RPG we played that I ran.
No, that's even creepier than that shit.
That was pretty. I was like, that was Eddie Redmayne from Jupiter Ascending. Is what
I don't know what you're talking about.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Joey, go the fuck home.
Give me my Oscar back. They took his Oscar from him for that. You know that.
Yeah,
That's they
fair.
Milli Vanilli'd his ass.
That's fair.
What?
Yeah, those awards are interchangeable. Nobody cares.
Yeah.
Millie, one of them died. Like, so
but they did take those Grammys back.
They did. I guess we're gonna give these Grammys back. That was. I guess you want the Grammys back, huh?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, because you didn't sing on the album.
Yeah, they took that shit from them.
Well, as Milli Vanilli would say,